Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central. And yes, I'm back with my posse. And I'm going to call you guys that because, well, yes, I can.
Okay, that's
Because
fitting.
neither one of you have really complained about that.
Not yet.
Not yet. Speak up when you want to.
Right.
So
I do.
yes, you do. That's right. Lisa does speak up, by the way. I'm joined by my posse, yes, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. Welcome, ladies. Did I say what day it is? I don't even know if I did that. It's Monday, March the 5th, 2018. Hey, I do know it today.
Nice.
Believe it or not. So, so BZ, you shared with us that you have had an experience and you started sharing it with us off camera, but we've decided that it would be really cool to go ahead and record it. So you asked your guidance, your own self, right? A question.
My soul, yeah.
Yeah, your soul. Okay.
Yeah. Which I do a lot. That's nothing new. What was funny was it was early Saturday morning on 3/3/18, which I thought was interesting. And I don't remember what prompted me to ask the question. And I asked it in a way that was playful. And perhaps I figured wouldn't get much of an answer. It's not so much an answer. What I was looking for is a conversation. So I didn't think I'd get much of a conversation. And I was way off the mark on that.
You were mistaken.
So the question was, so what's really up with this event thing? And
yeah, now that's because that's been described all over the place, right? I mean,
yeah,
we've all seen things.
The way I asked the question with the air quotes and everything was, I was kind of pointing to what's been described, and there seems to be a big flurry all of a sudden of, talking about the event. There, there's been a couple sites, I think, although I haven't watched or delved deep into it, that have been talking about it. But now all of a sudden it seems to be a thing, and I guess for me, when there's a lot of kind of featuring the channel, YouTube channels in this case, and everything's very similar, and there seems to be a hype around it. That's just the way that it struck me as. So that's great. I didn't pay much attention to the videos or anything, but so I don't know what prompted within me. I didn't wake up in the morning going, well, I'm going to have a conversation about this today. It never occurred to me. And as I said, I stepped into the shower and I was, had to get ready for work. And so for me, my snarkiness was the air quotes, and I always ask these questions out loud. And I started to get conversation on it instantly. And the first couple of things that came through, and this was a soft voice that came through, was you're already feeling it, you already have actually been describing it, and it's flowing through. So I'll just stop for a minute, because there I thought, well, wait a minute. I just asked a question about something that, that was been delivered in a certain way, and I thought, oh, okay. And immediately I don't know how to describe the different parts, whose voice, this or that, because it's all me. So I don't know if it makes any difference to, so that I'll just say it so that you can flow with it, rather than saying, I said, and I said, and I said.
And then I said. So I says to myself, I said.
Well, not only did I say to myself, but I made videos and played them for myself.
Nice.
I had I had music, I had downloads of geometric codes, I had magnetic light, I had music, I had a multi-dimensional experience, which was very, very cool. And I would love, I'm hoping that as we talk a little bit about it, and maybe if there's something I say that strikes a question, that some of that detail would come back, because I've had a lot of very wild, wacky, cool, weird, think of any other term you could think of. And this was pretty magnificent. And one of the things that struck me as fun was I was having this conversation in all different forms of media or medium, like an artist medium, and and just really enjoy it because it was multi-sensory. So the thought that came to me as this was flowing, so I could be in the conversation, watch the conversation, feel the conversation, and give the conversation, if that makes sense, all at the same time. And I laughed, and I remember laughing quite out loud, and I said, well, not only I'm now taking a quantum shower.
Right.
And it was, to use that, go back to that swimming pool metaphor, time and everything just,
yeah.
So the actual water from the actual shower, in the linear perspective, the drops came very slowly. And I remember at one point looking at the drops and the different colors. There's a window, but there's no real sun, especially it wasn't sunny, but there's no sun that comes in per se that would cause the colors. You look at water and sun,
right?
And it will give you color effects. Well, there wasn't anything external, quote unquote, but the colors, the quality of the water and the colors of the water, just to remark on the shower head, that, and it's not a fancy shower head or anything like that, was really quite amazing.
Wow.
What you're describing, that I'm feeling so far in how you're describing it, sounds like it was a very vivid,
yes,
and very multi-dimensional experience, so that not just, I'm getting the sense of that fantastical, that magical sensation that we actually talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
In our video, that everything has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that was one of the references. There's a couple references in the beginning. Remember, so when I'll say these different things, to put them in the order in the conversation doesn't really work, because they were coming in. Some was, might say I was hearing this conversation, but it came in all different ways. So one of the parts was when I had mentioned in one or two things about the river of love that was flowing. So that was in reference, that was the connection in reference to, you've already started to talk about it, and you're already noticing it's happening and that kind of stuff. Another one was what you talked about, that, everything has changed, and that fantastical thing. It's unfortunate. I wish there was a way, and I know there is, just not right this moment, because the equipment, or probably the equipment is the best way to do it, is not capable of me touching the computer and pulling it out. But it's very hard to convey what it was magical. So it was, let me try an analogy. If you all of a sudden you were taking a shower, and the wall, so there's an outside wall to the shower, so the outside wall of the shower slid away, and I was in an incredible forest, more of a tropical forest, with a waterfall slightly off to the right, and these amazing birds from some really cool planet or a very cool movie that had plumage and song, and even the flowers were incredible. And so those were the kinds of things that I was seeing. And then, like I said, the water itself within the shower changed. And I realize now that all of that was part of the downloads. So
Okay.
the downpours, all of that held information, conversation, keys and codes, all of that within it. And so I'm trying to pull back a little bit more specific detail of what the quote unquote answer, which was really more of a back and forth conversation,
Right.
About the event. And one of the best ways I can describe that detail is that it is intense, but for the most part, not intense in a harsh or upsetting way, because it was almost like I was getting, my thought on it is just a sliver of a glimpse of the scope, breadth, and depth of it. And it was pretty intense. It was pretty cool. It was pretty wild. And so that would be one of the things, is that, whereas there would be a lot happening, a lot of well, one of the things that, and I think this came through in, I'm not very good with geometric codes and stuff, because I don't consciously, from a cognitive linear level, really know what they are. Look at, if someone said, well, come on, can you explain, show me something, explain it. No, but I once I get them, I can kind of translate them. And I think suffice to say too, that there was so much coming in that it would take me many conversations with just myself here or with you or other, questions or whatever to unpack a lot of it. But one of the things that I got a sense of was that it'd be like two waves.
Okay.
So energetic waves,
Mm-hmm.
and two distinct, for some reason the word event horizon keeps coming to me. I'm not quite sure why that is.
Well, I just did 2 recordings today. One from the IUV, Lisa Transcendence Brown's newest article that I found on the IUV. But also I got special permission from Sophia Love to record her latest session with one. And what you're describing there with 2 different event horizons sounds very much that she describes as there will be some perceived in one portion of it. There's talk of perceived chaos, perceived loss, but then the new earth, so to speak, coming directly behind it. So that made me think of what you're speaking there of, 2 very distinct event horizons, one directly after the other.
Yeah, and like I said, when these kinds of things come in, oftentimes I don't even bother to try to parse them out. So to describe just this particular thing, again, here's another video where I'm being completely inept at it, but there will be certain phrases that come to mind. Now, obviously, I've heard the phrase event horizon, but it's not something that I use in my normal day-to-day things. So that came through, and that there was, if I was to describe what I was conversing in, it wouldn't be one and then another. There would be a little bit of a space of time. So, and I got one was more, because of the pictures and stuff that and the sense and feelings that came through it, was one would be more well, the word status comes to mind, and I'm not sure, maybe as in, what's the status of so on and so forth, right? But more structural, so more, not so much to do, I could do it more in not so much in our own physicality, but more in our world. And I don't mean our world as far as Gaia.
Like systems and structures.
Yeah, in our construct. So how we kind of move through and do things, and we're using the video and all that kind of stuff. So that was one sense. And I had similar feelings of kind of witnessing or experiencing something like I mentioned off camera with EMP type disruptions and stuff like that. I'm not certain about all of that, but that was the sense of it. So it was around structures. It was around the anything that isn't the physical, different live being things, everything else.
Okay.
So if you take the people and the animals and the birds and guys, so plants and all that kind of stuff, all of that, everything else that isn't that was the first section. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think so. If I'm, I think Lisa said structures, systems,
inorganic, sort of man-made.
Constructs, yeah. So that would, what comes to mind is buildings and roads and cars and
infrastructure.
And, everything that's not living and breathing, even what we might not think is, some people don't think that a rock or this or that is, so if you take all of the more natural things out, everything else would be in that first event horizon. And
I want to make sure I'm comprehending what you're both saying now. So because I view everything as energy,
right,
and so
well, so everything is energy, and there's frequencies. The planet gives off frequencies. There's frequencies that we all give off, and that are raising in the frequency vibration. So this first event horizon, the sense and pictures and conversations I was getting were that it would be, electromagnetic is coming to mind, those kinds of things that would be pulsing in this event horizon, but that would, the frequency wave, or I think wave would be the right way, as not a wave this way, but just the wave of the frequency, the modulation, perhaps that's the right word.
Yes.
Modulation was the word I was thinking of.
Huh?
Modulation was the word I was thinking of when you were searching there.
Would be ones that would target everything else from what, I've kind of put in this circle of the more organic and natural.
Okay.
So from a linear perspective, that makes me think of this computer, cell phones, any kind of those things that are on carrier signals, waves, those kinds of things.
Right.
So probably not a good thing to be flying in an airplane. You know, those kinds of things. And from that, I again didn't tune into any sense of upset or discomfort for myself. And then I broadened it out to, you know, people I know or who that would, you know, because I'm good from a linear perspective of logistics. Okay, so if something's going, okay, well, what would I immediately think that we need to help with this, and this? And uncertainty was a word that came to mind, and annoyance and frustration and chaos, simply because things that people take for granted and don't pay attention because they're not paying attention anyways, you know, now they have to actually pay attention. So I didn't get at all the sense, I didn't get any pictures, I didn't get any direct words of, you know, the planet blowing up and this and that and the other thing. I mean, I know for me, myself, that Gaia has got to go through, she's going through all these changes as well. And so there are going to be those things. But this was distinctly a event horizon for this that was coming. Mm-hmm. And actually, you know what, as I'm thinking about it now, it's coming into me that, you know, if there's some kind of disaster or some kind of thing in a community, it doesn't have to be a big one, but where people start to pay attention and they forget all of the, you know, oh, well, I'm on Twitter, I'm, you know, on my phone, or I'm doing whatever this, and they actually come together. They have connection all of a sudden.
Yes, I've actually spoken about that before. I lived through Hurricane Hugo in Charleston in '89, and you know, in every sort of thing like that, there's always, you know, a few that want to show out and be silly and goofy, and, you know, do things that aren't quite nice. But for the most part, I mean, that was a huge storm. And I personally lived without power for 3 months, and as did most of that area. And I can tell you that you know, this whole idea, the dog eat dog of humanity, is not the way bullshit. It actually goes.
No, it's manufactured.
That's right. That is all manufactured
and exacerbated. Yeah. So that was my sense of that. You know, sure, there might be some things, but the overall sense of that it was actually coming back around on the other side of it, looking back, mm-hmm. that it will make perfect sense. It does make perfect sense because it's a way to get people to pause and notice and connect, regardless of whatever is, you know, actually going on. And then the next event horizon, and in between those two, the parts of the conversation, I don't know that I got a sense like, you know, one is at 10 o'clock on Friday. And I think someone's mentioned, oh, well, you know, watch this. They'll tell you what time and day. I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Bitten more than one person in the rear end, I'm saying.
I was raised as a witness. I've been waiting since I was born.
Yeah. Well, my sense of the, we'll just call it in between the two event horizons, was not a lot of time, but I didn't get the sense of, you know, kind of a right. stuff either. And again, what was coming in, remember, I'm still, you know, in the shower, so this is taking some time, and everything had slowed down, so that because I got out of, there was still hot water, and I got out of the shower, and it seemed like a good 25 or 30 minutes had passed. But by looking at my clock, because I have, you know, X number of things I have to do before I leave to go to work, I was only running about 4 or 5 minutes behind, which was very interesting to me because Keegan noticed the difference in time. He actually came into the bathroom and sat at attention as if he was looking at, you know, you might say, well, what's that dog looking? Always looking at squirrels. I mean, he was absolutely spot on at attention. Him in that picture right there, just like that.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, very alert, watching. And so I thought that was it, but he wasn't looking at me. He was looking out what would have been the wall, or is now, but at the time was not a wall, kind of a thing. So he did notice, he's a good indicator. He did notice that it was a longer length of time.
Wow.
So then the next part, the next event horizon was abrupt, was sudden, was short, but oh so magnificently delicious. Breathtaking. So it was a sense of taking your breath away and breathtaking, and a deep inhale breath. And it felt like I was breathing colors, and breathing notes, musical notes, and breathing in, you know, this language that I use just doesn't, you know, I can see all the, actually some of the videos and stuff coming in now, and if you conjured up a picture of something, again, for some reason this comes to mind. So it's a beautiful day. It's one of those days where the skies are so clear, but they're just the right amount of real puffy clouds, and the color of the blue is just the right shade of cyan, that so that it's picture perfect in every way. So in feeling, in what it evokes for you, in how you can feel the kiss of the sun on your face, you can feel all those kinds of things. The wind, you know, just brushing, and the oft phrase of, you know, not a care in the world, that kind of thing. So on the one hand, that was a visual, and that feeling for me of, I wouldn't say it was peaceful, it was vibrant. It was, I'm not sure if this word fits in the right place, but it's answering in my energy that's running now. There was a sense of delicious vivaciousness. So it was palpable and vibrating, and how intense and powerful, fierce maybe the right, it was just fierce,
alive.
Yes. So it was kind of like HD to the however many quantum nth degrees. So here's a thought that's coming in now. If I wasn't used to, I think I've mentioned this before, that I have for a number of years, it keeps upgrading, where I see more colors, where my box of crayons gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, for what I can see for colors. If I wasn't used to that and play with it and like it, I might, I don't know the right word, stressed, maybe struck in all the ways that word might strike you. The intensity of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and your description of breathing in the color, that's very, well, that's synesthesia, first of all. And I'm not surprised, actually, to hear you say that. And I think because of my own the one and only thing I ever really see whenever it doesn't happen all the time, is those very vibrant swirling colors. Sometimes, not all the time. It's different than what I witnessed while in the courtroom, but it really started almost 2 years ago now. And it wasn't all the time, but so I can feel and sense what you're trying to communicate there, especially with the breathing in of the music notes and the colors. That's a very I just keep thinking of the word synesthesia and what that might feel like, as one who loves music and color myself, and that how intensely glorious actually that would feel.
Yeah. It was, that's the other thing that I, and maybe sometime I can, well, I don't even, if I could go back to that space, I'm not sure I would waste it doing anything else but just being in the space.
Right.
but if I really felt, to be of service, I would try to, if I could come up with, narrating something for a minute or two about it. But it was palpable. It was on every sensory level. And it's funny because as soon as I start to use those kinds of words, I mean, it's
right.
I could light this house with what's going through me right now. So it was very palpable and very intense. And, but see, I don't look at intense and the way that I experience, and I was clearly told that this would be this is just a small sliver of it. I thought all of it was, hot damn.
Yay!
I mean, gobsmackingly beautiful and intense, but I didn't see anything. I can see though, if people are not in the habit of noticing, some people don't even notice that there's a bird in a tree singing, or that there's a tree next to them that has color, or that, in a dull setting in nature, I could pick out, 8, 10, 12 shades of green that everybody could see if they actually looked at them, in just a small area right in front of you. So if that's the case, then yeah, I can see it would be searing your retinas, and, because it would be, well, for a lot of people, sensory overload.
Yes.
But go ahead.
I'm reminded of that feeling, how you feel after you've been in a dark movie theater and you come out and the sun is so bright, you almost can't handle it. It's just overwhelming to you.
That could be, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other sense, that's interesting that you brought that up, because the other sense is that I had was, I wasn't dizzy, but I was what I would describe, that I've described before to you guys, is phasing in and out. So each thing that I experienced, each part of the conversation, each way that the conversation came to me, and I was able to have the conversation back, some just like I'm having it now, but also at the same time in relaying things back telepathically, giving videos and codes and pictures back, if that makes sense. So there was
Yes.
whatever the different ways that it came in multidimensionally, it was a two-sided flow. So it would flow
Complete
to me.
circuit.
Yeah. And so sometimes when you come out of a movie and it was a fun movie, or you were really enmeshed and immersed and engrossed in the movie, and you come out and that saying, it's bright outside, and you're kind of, you know, like this,
Yes.
because you were really in that world, whatever
Yep.
that was, right? So there was a sense of that. There was a sense of that phasing in and out. So whatever part, and it's happening right this minute. So whatever part of the ways that the communications and conversation was happening, I would fully phase into that. So if it was about colors or feeling that, I would, like I told you, the water changed, but if I looked at my skin, it was much more luminescent. Wouldn't describe that it meant transparent, but much less opaque. Maybe.
Very shiny.
Yeah, but so like if you're using a Photoshop or some tool like that, you can take the opacity down on a photograph. So if you have two and one's regular, 100%, and the other one you've laid over it.
A little more transparent, perhaps.
That could be, yeah. Yep. But all of the detail was still there.
But what?
All the detail was still there. It just,
okay.
It's like one phased into the other.
Less dense.
Yes. Absolutely less dense.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
And less, this is not the right way to describe it, but maybe it might get us there. Less structure, although more fluid, but what was there that was transparent or less dense or less structure was very cohesive. So that seems like I just described things that are opposite to each other, but
no, not at all.
No, not at all. I've often thought about, tell me if I'm thinking along the wrong lines here, but when I think of beings like, let's talk about elementals or elves and fairies or inner earth folks or whatever, they exist. My words for this is slightly out of phase. In other words, they can be right here beside me. I can't see them because they're slightly out of phase. They are in a different
frequency, vibration.
Frequency, yes, a different realm.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of different ways that it can be termed, but so that's what I'm thinking when you're saying this.
And that's interesting. So just that gives me more clarity. So yes, that would be absolutely great. What the interesting thing was that I was more with the fairies.
Yes.
And the rest of everything else was that was phasing out of that or not quite phased in much. Does that make sense? But
right.
So the predominant flow or current, I think current's the right word, the predominant current was much higher, more rarefied, more light on various terms for light.
Right. I think I get that feel from what you're saying, that's okay. So that makes a lot of sense to me, especially in light of some of our other conversations regarding choosing your predominant frequency neighborhood / playground, and being clear within myself as to what playground I wish to be in.
Yes.
Because and that actually kind of what you're sharing with us here goes along with some of the other things that I've looked at and recorded just today. or at least for me, that just kind of drives home for me personally to you know, choose my playground and go with that and not be worried about being distracted into a different playground, because for me, everything that I'm taking in about this whole event, okay, because you're right, there's a lot of hype out there about this right now. There's a lot of different folks that are sharing what they're getting through their filters, and that's an important point, I feel like, is good for everyone to take in, that every one of the folks that are sharing these things, they're coming through some perception filters that we all have, and so all of it is just a puzzle piece to be considered, in my view. That's the way I'm holding it.
Yeah,
that's the way I'm holding it.
For me personally, I'm just a girl and her dog, and I have really wild, cool experiences.
Right, which is nice.
Well, you know, some people may think, okay, that's bullshit, but all right, but it's, hey, my kind of bullshit is really colorful and fun, so
I'll have some of what you're having as well.
Which also is nice.
There's a lot of bullshit in the world, so this is really,
as bullshit goes, I'd prefer yours.
Thank you. Agreed.
One thing that again, I don't get a sense of danger. I don't get a sense of destruction. Although one of my filters would be that we're not missing anything, and that we are all capable of standing fully in who we are, and that we can do this. Would we have, would different beings describe it as, you know, what mine might be as, you know, gobsmackingly delicious and intense? Someone else is going, holy fuck, I'm gonna die. Maybe.
Right. Well,
yes, well, that's real.
Well, to be honest, for me, I can see where it all depends on the playground you're playing in as to how you're going to hold it.
Right.
I can clearly see that's definitely going to be.
Yeah, if someone is, the sense that I got is, if you're if you're a service to self-orientation, regardless, and I'm not talking about Illuminati or anything else, I'm talking about just an individual being, service to self, you definitely would be on the range of, you know, if this is the red needle and the red over here of past fierce and intense and gobsmacking and whatever, you would be way in the red there, and you might be, you know, hitting the mat going, uncle, uncle, uncle. Because all of that because you haven't been noticing, you haven't been choosing. Well, you have been choosing, you just haven't been doing it intentionally. You've been choosing a path that's not in the predominant flow of where everything else is going.
Well,
and so that's all in your cellular memory.
Well, now, and that actually, the way you just termed that, I got a really big visual there for myself, and that is, if I picture the flow of what this is, you know, you've used the terminology like a river, a flow of something.
Yeah.
And if a person hasn't been, as you said, noticing different things, and this is going to be rather intense, maybe, then
I don't think there's a maybe.
Okay, I was trying to be nice.
No. Well, I think it'll be intense for everybody, but again, it's how you calibrate to the word intense. One of the things when you said river,
Okay.
that I just want to interrupt for a second, in right this moment as you're flowing in the river it's beautiful. I mean, the colors of the river, the water, the smoothness and the creaminess and the deliciousness of the water that is flowing through us, from within us out, over us. So it's a combination of all those things, although what I got was just now was a bunch of different so the projector was showing several reels all at once, and I take that as a description of how different the different characteristics of energy flow of the beings might perceive it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in one of them there were some rocks or obstructions or more solidified things in the river, and for some it would flow right through it, like putting your hand through a wall. Just go right through it and then float on by, and some would smack their ass on it and kind of bump off the side and that kind of thing. So that's very interesting. That's something new that didn't come in the shower. That's coming now.
Well, see, that's that. I wonder then if that's because, as you were saying, river and flow, what I got was, especially with the words, and if you're haven't been noticing the intensity, I got the visual I had was the whole drowning as you're trying to, oh my God, I can't even keep my head above the water. Oh, let me try to hold on to the side, kind of, oh, what flow, what river? Oh my God,
I'm drowning. I can't hear you.
That was the visual I got in my head.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that the other day. The energy is here now. That's it. It's flowing. I said, oh, could we slow it down a little? And I got, no, but you could catch up a little and we could Jimmy, this is it. This is the amount of energy moving forward that is on board permanently, and it's about to expand. So go with that.
So yeah. So it's like
I feel like I'm giving birth, and I'm at that point where I have to go, okay, so this could be hell right now, a whole lot of pain if I fight it, or so I've heard, because I fought it, so I got nothing. You could go with what the body's doing, and it can be orgasmic.
Right.
So I would like to go with what is happening.
Yeah, and I've said this to you guys, I don't know how many times, but you may have thought it was flowing fast before and that was slow as molasses. Well, think about if you say that to yourself maybe 20 or 30 times a day, every day, and what the definition was for those things,
Just keeps updating.
Right. And I think you might start to get it. And this event horizon that comes is a
well, there's actually someone somewhere has put out I don't know if it's a GIF or something in regards to and it's a clip from a film. I recognize it. It's a big, what looks like a wall of color cloud of some sort, with almost like lightning or whatever coming through it. And there's this guy who runs up a tower type thing, and he's standing there, arms up, waiting, and this energy cloud of color and lightning is headed straight for him. And so the more I hear all of these things, that visual doesn't seem to be too far from off. And I know that the energetics that Lisa describes as I've been feeling as though I'm working out again in my arms, and I know, good and darn well I haven't been. At least not in my waking 3D right here moment of, waking anyway.
Well, the other cool thing that was part of the original conversation I had and then happening right this moment in this conversation is that for some reason it seems important to share with you guys that the wave, the event, and it's Event Horizon just seems to be the best. I don't know why, but that seems to be the best thing to describe. So, this is kind of interesting. If you watch Star Trek, especially the Next Generation, and when they go into warp speed, so in the TV show, they make a graphic where the space kind of makes this diamond shape, and the Enterprise goes through, and you can see the trail. It's almost like it's refracting of the 3/4 of the ship going through, and it's almost like refracting of light of the colors of the ship goes through that diamond light shape, which I think is interesting. And then there's a moment in my conversation that's coming through, and there's a moment where there's all of these streams and flow and shower. So it seems to be like streams and flow and shower. It's almost, not only is it coming from every direction, but I can't quite feel what the importance of it was, that it's those different, those stream and flow and shower. And
I'm getting
color,
implosion. I'm getting implosion when you describe that. And for some reason.
Well, I think it's right. I think that's the shower. It's all of us is, right? All of selves. Yes, so that's what I was trying to describe, because I got a glimpse of it on Saturday, but now it's coming in very clearly. And so I think the Star Trek one is a good metaphor. So the diamond light, just like in the episode, it opens up, they shoot through, you have the refracting, that's the word I'm looking for, refracting of the light as the Enterprise goes through. Then you have the stream, the shower, the imploding of it, of all that. But it's so incredible. It isn't just color. Each color has, I guess maybe technically a vibration to it, but it has a sound to it. It has a song to it. It plays a note. And it's this kind of crescendo moment where all of that comes at the same time, that everything is imploding in, flowing. And I just want to go like this. It's this sense of this, but think of the most beautiful colors, the most beautiful tactile sensations, the most beautiful notes that are beautiful to you, the most, if you ever pet fur or something you're petting a cat that you really like, and the purring, when the cat's really happy and you're really happy and you're in this kind of zone of that purring, the purring actually does something to your whole energy field. Well, that's kind of what this is. And as you come out the other side, it's almost like there's a transparent veil that you go through. So you go, the diamond light thing opens up, you shoot through it, you have that, it's very short burst, but it's, well, I don't normally like this word, but awesome maybe. It's and then you go through, so all of that color, which seems cool, but maybe disorienting, simply because you can't stand far enough back from it to see exactly what it is. So that, and then what then comes in front of me is, so I've gone through the diamond thing, I've got the shooting color behind me, I'm in kind of the stream and the flow and the shower of it coming, and that's all what that has my full attention. Yeah. On every level, layer, sense, whatever, those are the right words for that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, it's like it's like the biggest widescreen movie screen that you've ever seen. Like it's galaxies wide. And so you can sense that there is some kind of barrier is the word that comes to mind, but it's not a wall, but it's a barrier. It's like
a membrane.
Well, there you go. That's exactly right. And it's transparent, and it's galaxies wide, widescreen movie screen membrane. And what you can see, and this is a very short span of time, quote unquote, just to use a linear placeholder, what you can see is amazing, because as far as you can see, and even actually as you look to one side, you can see beyond that. So in other words, if you were maybe like on the beach and you were looking at the horizon and you turn to the far right and someone said, describe what's, the forest that you can see on the horizon that way, and you would describe it. But as soon as you're looking that way, it's almost like either you slid on a conveyor walkway, so the horizon got galaxies longer. But what you're seeing is, well, you're seeing whatever you choose to focus on and all that is. But so it can be planets from afar, it can be stars, it can be a space in a place on a planet in detail. It could, does that make sense?
Yes.
So it could be, if you called up, just because these are things that people might be able to help them, if you called up specific scenes in is Avatar with the blue
people, yes.
Yeah.
So you called up specific scenes in there. So there's one where all those they're like the seed floaty things.
Yeah.
So
jellyfish-like creatures.
Yeah, so you would see that, or you would see. Anyways, think of any movie where there's this kind of thing, and so as you're looking at this, galaxies wide screen, which is a membrane is a good way to put this, but it's fully transparent.
Okay.
So you sense that something's there, but it doesn't, and what you're seeing, even the way I would describe it, because like I said, because I remember the difference between when I saw color the way I used to and then when I started to see color, and it was like, okay, well, I was blind back then. So, but this is even beyond that, and then you flow through it.
through the membrane.
Yeah. Well, the membrane is you, or you are the membrane. And
well, as a portion of all that is, we would be a portion of all of that, correct?
yeah. But I mean, there is still that I get the sense is that's I think it's that the birthing of that new being that I'm talking about. That,
well, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say just then, because all of what you've described for me as I was experiencing your description there, part of the reason I used the word implosion is that what I felt as you were describing that was and is for me what I would think of if I was thinking about the soul imploding into this physical being and becoming something else. My metaphor that I love to use nowadays is water and snowflake. And I think it's the same kind of, that's a more 3D way for me to phrase it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it felt to me like you were describing there. And how, and if I've only started noticing things, so yeah, I could imagine that's going to be a bit gobsmacking.
Well, when you were talking just now, what a picture came to me is there's a big glass. You said when you were talking about water and stuff like that. So there's a big, I'll say glass, just as a placeholder for a word, a big glass of water that each one of us is. And as this occurs, you could think of a giant snowball that got pitched into the water, the glass of water. And so a lot of stuff comes shooting out of the glass, and one might think, oh no, well, what am I going to do? All the water's gone, except that the disbursement of all of that is all that is not a harmonic resonant match to all of you that's actually coming in, and the core of you, the humanity of you is what comes to mind. So the pure, clean mountain spring water that is you. Okay, I'm really going on. We're now a water commercial, huh? I don't know where that came from, but okay.
The shower, I think.
That is you is there, and all of the impurities, all of the ego, all of the separation, all of those pretending games, all of those false part and parcel of the construct and the frictions in that leaves, and the two pieces come together, and actually very quickly so one moment there's the water glass and this comes in and it fountains out, but so you might think, well, you're stuck with a glass that's got this much water in it and there's this rock of stuff in there, but it's not, because it instantaneously changes, and the two parts, right, that were before are completely transformed into this new thing. The glass is gone, yet.
And so is the snowball, and something new is in its place.
Yes.
Nice.
I can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So.
That's an odd analogy, but it's
but I actually, for me personally, I can see exactly what you're describing and feeling into it. I get it. Which is odd for me to be able to say I comprehend something that quickly, but
Yeah, so.
Well,
you see, but there's a choosing. So if you want your glass of water snowball mowing to be a little smoother, then
Right?
then go with the, of course it's easy for me to understand that.
Well, I guess, yeah, but I mean, I'm not kidding around. I do feel, I do feel what you're saying. How easy it's going to be at the time, I got no clue, but I can feel into what you're saying, and I
It's
comprehend.
exhausting and it's exhilarating at the same time.
Well, if what I've been going through in the last 2 months is any indication, I got the exhausting and exhilarating all at the same time. I got that down to a science.
Yeah. We do.
At least I think I do, and I'm going with it. So I'm okay with that in this moment.
Which is nice.
Yeah, right.
Well, and the last thing that's coming in now is because as we were talking about this, I was asking, well, so what's next for me to be of service in that? So like I'm at the big movie screen, widescreen screen membrane thing I've gone through. And so as I was visualizing that, one of the things I was asking was, well, what's next for me to do to be of service? Because, you know, I mean, I may think it's cool or be floored or exhausted and exhilarated or whatever that is, but my thought is, okay, well, whoa, okay, now what, you know, what is it that I'm supposed to do next? How can I step forward to step in to do it? And the sense I got was just now, and I'll play with it more. It's kind of that metaphor that I use to reach out a hand and a bridge to walk people over on the bridge, because some may feel like they're shipwrecked survivors.
Right.
And, you know, a wash of all of this stuff and kind of swooning, you know, like from all of this. But in the same breath, my skin feels as uplifting as the sweetest bird song that you could ever imagine. So that's a weird way to describe, but that's exactly what it came through.
Yeah. So did you just say your skin feels?
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So there was no linear filter edit on that one at all.
No, there certainly wasn't. But
it was very clear that I was supposed to go with that. So I'll have to think of
love that though.
That feels like, but yeah. So there's it's a quality to it.
It's putting in mind.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about like sort of blending the physical. So it's a physical experience for certain, but it's sounding and feeling to me, because ever since you began to speak, I could feel the energetics of what you're speaking of. And to me, it's a blending of the physical and the etherical.
Yes.
It reminds me of dreams where in this dream world, I can breathe water and I can fly. Because it's sort of a blending, a melding, a cooperation with the environment that's sort of lacking in this sort of 3D reality that we have.
Well, we actually can. And I think it was you, Lisa, who was talking about, you know, if you're in the water and you're struggling because the water's coming over your head, but there is no drowning.
Right.
The choosing and the holding yourself separate and the ego yelling at you that you're drowning, get out of this, is what may give you the perception, at least for a moment, of that. But when you let that go, it's not at all the case.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is about that, the metaphor, although it was more than a metaphor, it was a description of my skin feeling like the clear notes of the bird song. So it's very pure. If I think of bird, certain bird song that's very, and there's a quality to it, there's a feeling to it, it's almost like a shimmer on the vibration. Well, I can hear it. It's not a bird I've ever heard before, but I don't know how to describe it, but it is, it's more than coating like your skin coats you. It is
like a layer of harmonics.
Yeah.
Yeah, encoding is the word I got.
Like a layer of harmonics, as
your true layer of harmonics.
Yeah.
right, like maybe just above what we now determine as our skin.
Well, I get the sense that the skin has completely transformed.
Yes. Think of well, the skin is your largest organ in your body, and it is your membrane, if you will, that separates your innards from your outwards, if you're thinking of it in terms of that way. But I like that visual of the hearing of the skin, because what it is it's a frequency boundary.
Yes.
So it is an encoding. It is that tone that, remember we were talking about the different, as a multidimensional being, each part of you is going to have its own tone, and then together creates, I don't know, the symphony. Oh,
right.
Wow.
Yeah. The other thing that just came when you were saying that was, we speak of each being has their own signature, vibrational signature. And so that's something this is related. So the skin is related to that. So now it's pure. There is no hiding. There is no blindfold, both from me looking out or others looking in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I feel like that, my observation actually in regards to that overall is that that's been falling away, at least for me, for some time. Looking back now, the creation of the hashtag all becomes transparent now. I didn't realize when I made that what that nudge was about.
Right.
And so I feel like that's already kind of been, at least in my field, and I'm sure for others as well.
Yes, me too. I remember specifically in Tennessee, this began for me where it was an energetic that I held, and it's just that the truth reveals itself now. And really everywhere I look, it's as though that's the transparency you're speaking of. The truth reveals itself now. It's everywhere I look, I see the truth of what is. And I can also see the layers on top and the false sort of construct, if you will. And so what I feel like you're describing is that moment where those cataracts, those false things that are on the truth, sort of obscuring us from the full vision of the truth, that falls away. Those scales are missing, and you see the true fluid luminosity truth of the core of it. And it's fun to watch as the truth reveals itself, because it seems like it's reminding me of that movie Liar Liar, where anything that isn't truth is more and more so untolerated that the minute it's uttered, it's seen for what it is, you know. And it's been really exciting for me to observe the truth just below the surface. So I'm hoping that I'm catching that vibe right, that the first wave, the first event horizon will be sort of the removal of that obstruction of the truth, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
Because the truth is always here, it just is.
right.
Sorry.
No, I was just waiting for you to
dial that energy back in. Yes, I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Don't apologize. You gotta quit doing that.
Yeah,
Not
no
the
apologies.
this, just the apology.
That's right.
Right.
I just
Okay.
paused. That's good. Yeah, when you were saying that, what came very clear to me is that my cat is chasing that's interesting. What is she's chasing something that's not third dimensional, but anyways.
Already.
That everyone is going through that second event horizon and coming through that to that transparent membrane and then stepping through.
Yep.
And perceptions and the perceptions of the ride and every stage is it's very short, very intense, but it's short, will be different for all, and they might characterize it in certain ways that would be not at all the way I would characterize it. But again, that speaks a lot of how they step into it. And my sense,
Yeah.
so just to finish that, my sense is that you can write this, if you start right this moment, noticing and listening to yourself. You are the expert, so listen to yourself and tune into yourself and notice what is there and ask and start your conversation that goes on all the time now out loud to your absolute best connection that you have, which is you. You can shift dramatically what that perception is between now and then. Whatever, I don't have a sense of what that is. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's very long, but I don't have a sense. It's certainly maybe within the early spring. So
yeah, it's feeling closer and closer all the time.
By the minute.
Yeah. But
it feels imminent / instant.
Yeah.
Well,
now would be I mean, in the energetic sense, not the linear sense.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to finish is that everybody goes through that is, so when you talked to Lisa about the layers and everything peeling off of the truth, and what came very clear to that is, so it just was actually cartoon caricatures, for lack of that's what they seemed like to me. So
yes,
I didn't recognize what they were, but of a cartoon character of something that was perceived as good.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And the caricature artifice was melting and falling off, right, and turned into something that was holy smokes, so then perceived as bad
Right.
or ugly or evil.
Mm-hmm.
But as it's going through this, it then goes the next step to sublimely beautiful. So I get the sense that every individual being is doing all of that. The metaphors for that are very vast in what they entail and encompass.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that rolling through the flow of that river to that widescreen membrane and then stepping through. So there's the stepping through
Mm-hmm.
is you can feel. So I'm getting another one of those things. Remember when it was the river and there was all those, how did I say it, the perspectives,
Right.
So I just actually looked right and left and in front, and there's beings as far as the eye can see, and then we all take the conveyor belt and we can keep seeing, right?
Right.
But as each, and it's an individual thing, step through, it's palpable, and this is not the right phrase, but it's something around that is breaking through, but that's not.
Well, and when in terms of birthing one's self or one's soul self, a breaking through of that membrane, or a piercing, if you will, of perhaps another sort of veil. I could see where if I am imploding into and then becoming, because you've got the imploding down in, the physical changing into yet a third, so that as you're actually stepping through, breaking through, piercing through this membrane, so to speak, most especially in terms of like someone like myself that has not done half, not even anywhere near half the kinds of communication with self or noticing of things that either one of you have done. I could see where that would be. That's why I feel like piercing a veil would be an appropriate thing to say, because there's going to be one veil pierced as you're imploding in, as my, all of me implodes in, but then there's going to be another separate, different sort of piercing, I would think, from what I'm gathering and feeling from this, in the noticing of the tactile sensations, the sight, the sounds, the colors, the feeling, the taste. All of that is going to be that piercing of that new, like even more than fantastical new type.
Well, what came through a video that played while you were talking was very cool. It was breaking. So water is interesting as a metaphor that keeps
the breaking of the water. I kept seeing that too.
Breaking through the surface of the water. So, hi, you want to come break through the surface of the water? Okay, there we go. We're breaking through the surface of the water. You might describe it
Hi, Keegan.
Actually, some visuals come to mind. You know, it could be a person breaking through the surface of the water, and it's, you know, the sun is low in the sky and it's shimmering, or the speed and power, and for me, the beauty, because it's oftentimes a dance of joy where a dolphin or a humpback whale comes up and breaks through the surface of the water. When they leap out, just because they want to, and it's, you know, and the enormity, especially with a humpback, of the majesticness of them, and the sheer size of them in the scope of the being that they actually are, because cetaceans are not what we think they are.
Yeah, I know.
But that can leap, you know, so from a linear level, the sheer weight of that can leap so high, and effortless. So that's kind of the sense that I get. That's what the breaking is. It's breaking through all of that. It's not breaking like I'm, you know, oh my God, I'm drowning, I gotta break through. It's
no, that's why I was feeling that piercing of a veil of from one
world to another.
Yeah, very, very.
Well, I was just thinking of like when you're giving birth and the water breaks, you break the membrane, and the waters just sort of usher you from one world to another.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. Kind of what I was thinking with the piercing of a veil, and then seeing, sensing, feeling something completely new and different, because the perspective that just all the additional things that will be coming in, or that I would assume would be coming in with the greater portion of my being, and then having it now being an entirely new being, with the melding of the 2/3 becoming something new completely.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Well, that was my shower on Saturday.
Again, I'll have what she's having.
Exactly. Make that too.
Make that too. Around.
That was beautiful. See, Ben. Yay.
Yes. So you too are getting a sense that it will be in the spring.
Yeah, well, my sense is that there isn't much holding it off.
Yeah.
And we are the ones that are initiating it. That's also very clear to me.
Yay.
Well, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I've made my choice. I'm ready. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Did you have anything else to add to that before we close this?
Well, the only tap on the shoulder is the linear way to say it, but the quantum, the heart, maybe that's what it is, the nudge from the heart is that now is really the time, and people will language it in different ways, but to in a very soft and just like a river of love flowing, or a you know, this gorgeous sparkling colored shower of effervescence, but go out and touch as many people as you possibly can with the sense of this. You know, you could walk up and say, hey, do you know the event's coming? It's all over the internet. You could do that. Or you could just say that, however it feels moved to me. I mean, I know I've already mentioned to a couple people since this happened on Saturday, they weren't I didn't go into a lot of detail because they weren't near me physically. They have that. These are actually more work related, but I was very, very firmly nudged to start to reach out. So, even complete people that you don't, strangers, quote unquote, in the stores, there's, figure out within you what is the way that you feel nudged to do it, and that it works. But this is part of those who are feeling and sensing and can tune in and notice what's going on and resonate with this. This is part of the mission. And the other thing too is that this is not separate from all that's been going on, and this is not being done to you, and this is not outside of you, and there are no saviors. No one's going to come up and pat you on the head and say, well, we'll take care of it for you. No, because that's all separation, that's all illusion, that's all each one of us are amazing beings, and this is exactly why we came here to do this. Mm-hmm. So being small is done. It's done.
And so I personally have a question that I would like to pose to you in that vein then. As I personally have chosen what playground I'd like to play in, and am choosing a predominantly higher frequency vibration than what I have previously played in that other playground. As we interact with others, that it is clear they've chosen to play in a different playground, because there are no saviors, and it's all a matter of choosing. Whether they be of our own individual families or, the larger family at large, meaning the family of humanity is what I'm speaking of here. That's still a sticky wicket for me personally, as I, in times past, would just, rush out, bull in a china shop kind of deal. Let me tell you what I think about this one over here, that kind of thing, because I've been real good about that. But not so much recently. I've sort of dialed it back, and I've, just been doing these videos and feeling that those that feel drawn or resonate with this will find it. And so I do wish to be of service. And yet we've also spoken about the prime directive, if you will, of non-interference. So because for my own self, and for those that might be in the same boat as I in this moment of now, so I want to be of assistance, and yet I don't want to beat folks up over the head with it either.
What comes to me as you're asking that is two flows. One is that you can, if you truly listen to your heart, and that's the I am that you're speaking from and being from, it will know exactly and how tiny or how large to have that. And it may, like I said, it won't be hawking something, like peanuts, get your, event, get your event.
Step right up and get your Get your evolutionary
Get your
flow
event itinerary.
line. I can hook you right up.
It can be something that's, well, we've talked about different things like this before, where you're, just stop and have a conversation with someone noticing something, or, whatever it is. So, because that conversation itself can be very short, but incredible energies flow in that, and it will be remarkable. So they will remark, and it will mark, and it will help make them able, right? So all those three things to flow better than before that with what is coming. So, and you can do that if you're in person. You can do that, in a direct way, in a conversation on the phone, or whatever mechanism, right, that would take. You can do it where you take a few moments every day, maybe a couple times a day, and you might beam it to your neighborhood or your city or your state or your country, or however, or pick up another state or country or city, or however that is. That can be a way, again, where you're not imposing anything on. You're just tuning into the depths of who you are, and I think there's a lot of jewel tone colors come to mind to describe it that way. There's a lot of focused, reflective jewel tone color frequencies that come from you if you pick a particular place. So like in the city that you are, or just in the neighborhood, or you might look at a map and something fires your imagination, so fires your heart, because I can feel it right now. It's almost like it's a radiance beam from you someplace on the globe, and play with that. So that's actually very interesting. It's a fun idea. I like that. I'm actually going to go do that tonight. But that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to even speak to someone, but it's being actively engaged. And the beauty of that is that there's tremendous service to other with self as other in that, because as you do that, you actually have more expansion unfolding within you, more clearing and cleaning and integration and clarity within you. And that allows you to go through whatever these event horizons present themselves to your perception in that moment, in a changed state from 2 moments ago, if that makes sense.
No, it does make perfect
sense. And you keep doing that, and so on and so forth. Or if you feel nudged, I guess you could go hawk, but
Well, I'm as you were describing that, I'm reminded of something that I was doing. I had a family member who had been in a horrific car accident, and several times throughout the day, I would, along with Reiki, of course, I would project what I was seeing. I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time, but it was as I was thinking healing thoughts in her direction. This is when I first started seeing color behind my closed eyes. So I was seeing a connection of just this swirling, beautiful green going from me to her. So this is what evoked in me when you were talking about this. So this is something that for myself, I could see that would be something easy for me to do that I hadn't thought of. So thank you for sharing that with me and everyone else that will be partaking now and will in that linear future time when this goes out.
Yeah, so again, it can't be stressed enough. When it's service to others, self is as other.
Right.
So, and there,
Oh, I'm quite clear in this moment of now that every moment I spent in sending those healing energetics out, I was receiving them as well. I don't think I was clear on that at the time. I'm clear on that now, however.
but it's also a transformational thing for you in the moments that lead up to the event horizon.
Yeah, I can see where that would be.
It's
Because
a
my
facilitation.
sense, yes. And my sense too is that, just as I asked that question when we were having the conversation, I was asking the question, thinking of it, I was asking it for me, okay, what would be the what would be the next thing that would be of the most of service for that? And so as you're doing that all the way through, you actually get yourself in a better, more ramped up for that event horizon, and can fully step into, this is another it's another video, but because, so maybe I'll just leave it here and we can play with it later, but because as you step through that, or you break the surface of the water, and there is that joy and jubilation and just explosive, amazing expansion. And it just is so, because it's who you always have been, but you're brand new because now it's all of you in here. That separation has been stripped away, and so now you flow and you be and you do as your soul, as source, as the factualized of that, which is totally different than as the human with the lower mind and all of those constraints. But it also has, because you are this is where you'll get the sense of the human, right, coming in. And so you've actually reclaimed that essence, that amazing sublimeness that was humanity, which has been nowhere present for like eons, right? Is come back in. And so that's where you begin, but it's from the soul orchestration. So it's wondrous and limitless, and orgasmically, deliciously, wow. But it's different.
Well, Lisa and I were talking a little bit earlier. I turned to her and said, "Oh my God, my whole body is vibrating." And that's when she said to me, "Get used to it. This is what it's going to be like for a while, And so
from here on out.
and in this
Welcome to your new normal.
Right, that's right. That's exactly
well,
right.
but being here and feeling into what you've been sharing just ramp that up to a whole other degree and level. I'm having a lot of extra vibrating going on in my sacral area at this moment of now. And so, and I'm equating that to excitement.
So one way to play with it, this is funny, it just came in. So think about how before we started the conversation or before we started recording the conversation, right? And so what you were feeling or thinking or what was the shower thing, you know, right? And all that feeling and all that's entailed and all the new stuff that's come and we've all actually pulled out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all in it together and that's how it works. So think of that as, you know, you had the quote unquote before and then now. So this is your new normal now. So just think of doing that.
Okay.
30, 40, 50, 60, 75 times a day. And each one is, so, you know, the pre-conversation, new normal. And then now that's like you started again, pre-conversation, you know, does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's how we roll.
Yeah, yes. And remember that Lisa is living with me right now. So pre-conversation could be 5 minutes ago. Because it's that's what it feels like for me. I feel like a completely different person from just I don't know, yesterday.
Yeah.
So
me too.
Yeah. Thank you ever so much. We're gonna close this one here, right? We good? Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay, so BZ's blog at the IUV will be included in the body of this video along with Lisa's 2 blogs, Heart Song Musings and Rush Solutions, Tools for Transformation, along with the link to the Friends of the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page and my email address. And I would love to hear in the comments of this video any other thoughts, feelings that folks have experienced from this video, any kinds of inklings or
anybody taking a shower lately?
of their own asking. Yeah, I mean, you know, and if you don't feel like that's the appropriate place, you want to reach out to me privately, that's cool too. And till next time, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.